Hey, what is up guys, Geburah here, welcome back to another Blue Archive video. So let's talk about Geburah. I'm going to make a guide for you guys and hopefully we jump into everything that you need to know to be able to tackle Geburah. Alright, so first things first, this boss is going to be very different. Alright, so I'm going to explain the mechanics for Extreme and then Insane. Hopefully these two is going to be the difference, right? So Extreme and below, Geburah mechanics is going to be a little bit simpler, but Insane and above, Geburah basically get a little bit of extra mechanics that you gotta pay attention to. Now first, let's jump into the basics, right? So what is the most basic thing that you need to know about Geburah? This particular boss, if you are not aware, has this particular special perk right here, where the boss increased damage dealt by special students by 80%. Now what does that mean? That means that your special students, which is these two slots at the bottom here, alright? So special students are going to be your students that stays at the back, they don't really show up in the battle. So they do 80% more damage, alright, very strong. And Geburah, because this boss is a explosive boss, something like Nagisa, Hibiki, those are going to do very strong damage. But the most meta character right now that's the best against Geburah is going to be Satsuki. Alright, if you can get her, borrow somebody's Satsuki, she is probably going to be the best candidate by far. Mashiro is going to be decent, alright, single target characters that stays at the back. In this particular case, all of these special students are going to be very strong, alright? So that's going to be one thing that you gotta be aware of when you're tackling Geburah. And one more thing is you cannot rely on striker students, unfortunately, because you can see right here, striker students, tactical support riders, and summons, meaning like if you summon like Iroha's tank or Ayane's helicopter, those will do 75% less damage. So you lose out on a lot of damage. If you try to bring like Dress Hina or Mika or whatever, I highly recommend it to bring special students. Alright, those are going to be the strong ones. Now increase cost recovery by 25%. And this one is going to be very important. Increases Geburah's Mystic effectiveness by 75%. Now what is this Mystic effectiveness? That means this boss will basically do a lot of damage if your character is defense type is Mystic. Alright? So that's going to be the annoying part. So you have to be very careful, especially if you're trying to bring somebody that their defense is yellow. So every student has an attack type and defense type, right? So make sure you guys are aware of that. So if their defense is going to be Mystic, that means they might get one-shotted by Geburah, so you have to be very careful with who you bring. Now next up, let's talk about the thing at the back, alright? That heater thing that you see at the back, what is this thing all about? So this heater thing, basically there's a gauge right here, right? Between 30%, 70% and above 70%, right? 100%. So this heater will do multiple things depending on what the condition is, and you want to heal the heater to basically benefit from these effects. Definitely you need to bring at least one healer. So a single target healer is going to be very strong, alright, but you can use AoE healer like Koharu as well. But ideally, this is where Kokona or Idol Mary, this is where they shine. As you can see, if the heater's gauge is less than 30%, it doesn't do anything. But if it's between 30 to 70%, you can see recovers 5000 HP for all allies excluding the heater. But if it goes above 70%, then you basically recover 7000 HP of all allies. So what this heater does is, this heater is basically like a HP recovery tower. Alright, basically it just stands there and try to heal your students depending on how high this is. So you want to occasionally heal it from time to time. Now it also gives you a little bit of damage reduction, as you can see, 25% damage reduction. You want to make sure to take advantage of that and try to heal the heater from time to time. Now enhanced skill, this is going to be what it is. When the heater reaches 100% or it enters this overload state, you also get way more bonus effects. You get cost recovery increased by 500, you get attack increased by 30%, and you get crit damage increased by 60%. So you want to try to get overload from time to time, maximizing the heater. Now the last one is going to be this weird thing that the Geburah might occasionally bring up called the pillars. Alright, this is going to be that thing, the ice thing in the middle, right? So this thing has a shield of its own, has a barrier, which is very difficult for you to try to destroy. So you gotta time it correctly and try to destroy it every time it's out. Alright, so therefore when you destroy this, it increases the heater's recovery and also increase your healing receive. which is very, very good. However, you have to manually destroy this particular one, which is why certain characters that can do single target is going to be very, very beneficial. So this is going to be the basics of Geburah, right? So this is for the extreme and below. If you are new, this is going to be where you want to try to tackle this. Now let's talk about the team then. Team recommendation, who is going to be the best students to basically try to tackle Geburah. Alright, so as you can see right here, you need one healer. Alright, so either Idol Mary in this case. Okay, so if you don't have Idol Mary, who can you use? You can also use someone like Koharu. Koharu is going to work just fine as long as your defense armor is not blue, it is going to be fine. Now Kokona is going to be a little bit difficult. She's going to receive a lot of damage, but I still think that if you have you know, like 5-star and above, she should be able to survive at extreme, right? But at insane and higher, then I don't recommend using her. Now Idol Mary is probably going to be the best one. That's going to be a single target focus. Asuko might take too long because you want to ideally heal, you want to burst heal the enemy. So with that, that's going to be, I think Idol Mary is pretty much going to be the best one. So how about the other students right here? So as you can see, we got Asuna School Uniform and Sakura Pop Idol. So why are these two students being used? Because like earlier we checked, special students will do bonus damage. Alright, they're going to do a lot of damage. So that means you want to bring special students that can do DPS. Now, of course, something like Nagisa, something like Mashiro, you know, if you have this, going to be very, very good. Satsuki, like I mentioned, is going to be the way better one. Single target, explosive type is going to be the best one, right? So again, the boss do have relatively high defense, so either Nagisa or Swimsuit Shiroko, as long as something that can reduce the enemy's defense is going to be extremely beneficial. Alright, I believe something like this should work as well. Now Asuna, in this case, School Uniform Asuna is going to give you the attack percent. Alright, increase the attack percent of special students by 63%. And then we got Sakurako Pop Idol, which will increase the crit rate and crit damage of the special students by, you know, a few seconds as well. And last but not least, you don't really need any students that can move you around in extreme and below, right? But this one, Mine Pop Idol, she'll be useful in insane. But regardless, you can take this out if you're doing extreme and stuff. You can just substitute with any other students that can basically decrease the boss defense, right? So something like Akane here works as well, so that's going to be what it is. So this is going to be somewhat of an ideal team, alright? So we can cycle through this very, very easily. So you want to go with the healing and stuff, so let me see if I can show you guys a little bit of the mechanics right here. Okay, so this is going to be a very, very simple and straightforward sequence. We're going to heal this particular hitter first. We try to enter the overload stats, right? So now we get extreme cost recovery. You can see we are recovering way faster. So we go with Swimsuit Shiroko, and then we can use Mashiro first, and then Sakurako Idol and the Asuna afterwards, and then go back to Shiroko, and then Mashiro again. So we can do that twice, right? And then heal up the hitter again. We are trying to cycle through. And then go with Akane, Swimsuit Shiroko, and then same deal, right? Mashiro, and then the other two. Alright, so we're just cycling through. And then Mashiro again. Alright, so don't be hesitant to heal here. Every time you see that go down a little bit too much. Okay, so Akane, Swimsuit Shiroko now can destroy this thing. We wait for the barrier to go away. And then Mashiro, and then go back to that, and then come back to the heal. And then Mashiro and Akane. Okay, Swimsuit Shiroko right there. So now we are in phase 2. So phase 2, this is a very interesting one, right? Sometimes when the ice thing in the middle is still there, if you enter phase 2, it will automatically get destroyed. So you can basically try to time it. Okay, so start off with a heal. Mashiro. And then Swimsuit Shiroko. And then I guess we go Mashiro again. Remember that Mashiro is a little bit RNG based, right? Okay, heal this hitter up. Okay, so we go with Akane and then Swimsuit Shiroko, then Mashiro, and then the other two, right? Alright, and then Mashiro again, and then I guess Akane for now. Okay, I gotta heal this thing up. Heal, okay, nice. So every time you heal that, you get way more recovery, right? A lot of recovery. So I'm gonna do this, Mashiro again. And then now we destroy this thing, and then heal this thing back up, and then Mashiro again. Okay, so I'll try to see if I can go in more time. Mashiro, and spam Mashiro and spam Shinsu Shiroko, right? And that's how you do it for the extreme difficulty. As you can see, it's quite straightforward. It's simple enough because we don't have the additional mechanics that you gotta worry about for the insane difficulty. Now let's talk about the insane difficulty and higher. So what is the difference right there, right? So Mashiro is no longer going to cut it if you are one trying to do insane, especially if you're trying to do one team, right? Unless you are trying to go multiple teams, then that's fine. But for one team, you need Sasuke, right? Sasuke is going to do way more damage. Let's talk about insane and above. Alright, insane, torment, lunatic. Now this is going to be a little bit difficult. So let's talk a little bit more about this, right? So what is the difference between the extreme and below and then above insane, right? So the main difference is going to be right here. You can see now we have a whole new mechanic of the characters, right? So for extreme Geburah, you can see the boss basically just increased Mystic Effectiveness by 75%, right? And that's pretty much it. But for Insane and above, now the boss has this, basically gives you hypothermia gauge every 5 seconds. So now you're gonna have one additional gauge that you gotta pay attention to. Now this particular thing is very annoying, so you gotta move your students around to be able to remove or reset this hypothermia gauge, because if your hypothermia gauge reaches 10 slots, your character remains frozen solid, they cannot do anything at all, alright, and then the damage received is increased by 80%. So very, very, very annoying. So that is pretty much the main mechanic, right? So this is going to be where it gets a little bit tricky. So now you have to bring a character that can move your students around, okay? So the most famous character that I think everybody knows is going to be Tracksuit Yuuka. So can we use Tracksuit Yuuka right here? Now if your Tracksuit Yuuka is really, really well built and she's going to be like UE40 and 5-star and above, and she's tanky enough, I think you can basically get away with it. But remember, Geburah does 75% more damage to Mystic type students, and in this case, Tracksuit Yuuka's defense type is a Mystic type, right? It's a special. So she's going to take a lot of damage. In some occasions, depending on if you have her 3-star or 4-star, she might die, alright? So highly recommend you guys to use a free character that we obtained a few months back, and that's going to be Idol Mine. So Idol Mine is going to be able to tank it much easier for you. She's one of the tankiest character, so you don't really need the shield or anything. You just need to be able to move characters or move the students around to basically reset the hypothermia every single round. Alright, and then this is going to be how it is, right? So instead of Mashiro, I don't think Mashiro can give you the comfortable insane run. Sasuke is going to be the one that you want to use. Now ideally, I would highly recommend you guys to see if you can go to Assistant and see if you can find like a strong Sasuke. Hopefully that's going to give you a much more comfortable run. So something like this is going to be the ideal insane team comp. Obviously, you can also get away with not Shiroko but using something like Nagisa and stuff, depending on if you are requiring to multiple team this. But this particular team setup right here, team composition, will definitely secure the one team combo for you to be able to do the insane Geburah. Okay, so let's see how do we do this. So this is going to be relatively easy. As you can see, we are going to start off, the rotation is very important. Idol Mary first, try to heal up that thing at the back, the heater, right? And then wait for a little bit, and then we go with Swimsuit Shiroko, decrease Geburah's defense, and then we want to use Satsuki, and then immediately rotate to both the Asuna and the Idol Mine, Idol Sakurako. Alright, so you get the buff immediately, and then go back to Mary, and then the Sakurako, Satsuki again, so that you can go in twice with her with the buffs. So that's the rotation. So and then we're gonna move things around. Alright, we try to like cycle through Swimsuit Shiroko there, and then try to heal the heater. So you want to use Idol Mary's skill as often as you can. Alright, the idea here is you want to try to get the cost reduction. I think every 3 EX skill, we're gonna get that cost reduction. Okay, Sasuke right there. And then we're gonna try to rotate with Swimsuit Shiroko. Hit this particular thing in the middle once the shield has been removed. And then try to bring out Mary. We're gonna rotate around. Heal the heater. Okay, now heater to full. Now we rotate again. Same Satsuki. Then immediately go with Idol. Schoolgirl Asuna. Then Idol. In that case. Okay, so I have to pause for a little bit there. Okay, let's see. Next. So now we're gonna move a little bit, go back to the heal, okay, and then back to Sakurako again so that we can go in twice. Now at about 340 times multiplication of the health times 340 is gonna be about phase 2, right? So if you see this ice thing, don't worry about getting rid of it, right? Just focus on getting the boss down. I think about 350, 340 around there. Now you can see we enter second phase, right? Okay, nice. So now heal the heater. And then, again, we try to bring out Sasuke, and then we rotate around, right? So we're gonna get the buffs afterwards, okay? And then you can use Shiroko afterwards to reduce that. But actually, should you go with Shiroko first, but you don't get the ideal setup right there, because it's second phase. Sasuke again. So we're trying to see if we can get the boss groggy bar in this particular case, right? So now let the boss shoot the laser out, wait for a bit. Okay, so we're gonna go in with Swimsuit Shiroko. Okay, and then Idol Mary. And then get the Sasuke to the other two, right? So pay attention to the thing in the middle. We can heal again with Idol Mary when it comes, but now Sasuke rotate back. Okay, so we're gonna do a lot of damage right here. Idol Mary with a heal. And then try to bring back Swimsuit Shiroko out so we can get rid of this ice thing in the middle. Very annoying. Pay attention to your 10 bars of hypothermia status. Gotta make sure you use Idol Mary, Idol Mine. I'm so confused, man. Idol Mine once in a while. I swear these idol students are like the most confusing the most confusing setup I've ever used in the entirety of Blue Archive, right? So literally I am so sometimes I even press wrong. I thought like Idol Mine was Idol Sakurako or Idol Sakura. Like, why do they all look the same? They have the same uniform. Alright, but maybe it's just me, right? Maybe I'm going crazy, but yeah, I understand that the idol is yeah, it's very confusing for me. Very, very confusing. Okay, so again, rotation is going to be as you guys can see, it's pretty straightforward, right? So every time you get Sasuke, just go with Sasuke, use the other two idol students, and not the other two. One of it is Asuna, alright, to buff the attack and crit rate and crit damage. You get how it is. And then rotate back to Idol Mary to heal, and then back to Sasuke. Make sure Swimsuit Shiroko reduce the defense. And then once you get the hypothermia up, and then move them around with Idol, Mine. I mean, like, it's pretty simple and straightforward in that particular regard. So I hope it's not too confusing. But yeah, if it's confusing, make sure you guys run it at ×1 speed. That's what I did to hopefully try to secure the runs better, right? Okay, so as you can see, that's going to be the Sasuke doing the highest damage right there. That's some crazy damage right there, right? Is that 84 million? Yeah, 84 million insane damage carried by a UE50 Sasuke. Now, she's probably going to be the best in slot for a long time. Later on, we're going to have another character that can do what she does. I think Guide Pina is going to compete with her with that slot. But for now, Sasuke is probably going to be the best carry for any players to be able to use. So, hopefully that rotation is going to give you guys an idea on how to beat, you know, extreme and insane Geburah. Maybe I'll make a Torment guide, we'll see how it is, right? But that's going to be the new player's guide to tackle this particular raid boss Geburah. Hopefully you guys understood the mechanics. And if you guys have any suggestions, you know, you have any ideas or questions, leave it in the comment section below. Torment and Lunatic is going to be way harder. I'll find time to do this later in the weekend. So yeah, with that being said, that's going to be it for this particular video. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. Give this video a like. I hope you guys find this helpful. With that being said, have a nice day. Goodbye.